Welcome to the game. I'm Russ Cohen. We've got Nikco Riesgo. Nikco, how are you?
Russ Cohen, my man.
And Mike Augello. Mike?
I don't know how to follow that. Hi, Russ.
All right, so let's chat about the New York Mets and fans and being a professional baseball player. Nikco was a professional baseball player. So Nikco, and you did play for a New York franchise, so you did play for the Mets minor league, so you have an idea of what the New York fan is looking for. And I have to tell you that you don't apologize for, putting the thumbs down and everything that they did the day before, 2 days before, to the fans by saying, if I offended you, I'm sorry. That's not an apology. And to be fair, Lindor had a video before that where he was still trying to come up with a cock and bull story about how he wasn't doing that against the fans. End of the day, fans are the ones who still pay your salary. Fans are the ones that are showing up and watching you lose 7 of 11 games that last run by 1 run, and watching like horrible base running like I'm watching now by Jonathan Villar, who almost got picked off the first, then just got picked off the second. Plays every day, even though he's not an everydayer. That's on Luis Rojas. That's another story in a minute. But at the end of the day, Baez, he talks about it post-game and acts very matter-of-factly about the fans. And these guys are so disconnected now from the fans that it's going to take a while. Like, even when Lindor was doing his apology today and doing some videos, there were fans in the background still booing him.
And they may boo him for a long time. I mean, he hasn't produced anything, and they have every right to boo. And what I see as the players, what they do is like they deal with failure every single day. And then now the boos on top of the failure. It is a mental grind. And when you're getting in the dog days, what they found is they were able to find some way within themselves to motivate themselves, whether it be a thumb down or some type of, shake or something. They decided the thumbs down was they were going to rally behind that and build some momentum and try to find some success out of the misery.
Mike?
Well, the problem I have is that the thumbs down is not an internal thing where they're directing it at themselves. It's an attack on the fans for the fans booing a player. And apparently Lindor early in the season when he was struggling was getting booed, and that really got under his skin, and he's carried that throughout the season. And now him and his friend Javi Baez, they're getting booed because of bad play, and this is their response. It's petulant and stupid. And honestly, in a media market, in a massive media market like New York, you can't do this crap. And, Lindor has nothing to be unhappy about. He signed a ridiculous contract. He's going to be making $34 million the next decade. If you were prepared for when you're not hitting well, getting booed in New York, then you're lying to yourself, because that's going to happen. Giancarlo Stanton with the Yankees, he gets booed all the time. I haven't seen him react any way the way Javi Baez or Lindor have reacted. And honestly, to my mind, and I'm a Yankee fan, Russ is a Met fan. The difference between the two organizations is that the Yankees seem to, I think, sort of rise above a lot of these things on most occasions. And the Mets seem to wallow in it. They always seem to find controversy. They always seem to, mismanage things. And I don't get it. I mean, you should be able to hire good PR people to handle this stuff, good management people to handle this stuff. And in the case right now, they don't have an experienced manager. They have a GM who I think is out to lunch, and they have a neophyte billionaire owner who, is more concerned with sending out tweets than he is, the way his team is playing.
Yeah, I mean, Nikco, I mentioned a year ago on Twitter before the Mets ever got involved with the Lindor trade that they shouldn't because he was in offensive decline. People destroyed me. I looked at his numbers and I said, hey, his OPS went down from like his normal 8-something to 750. His home runs were way down, even in that home run friendly ballpark. His RBIs were way down. I get it. It was a COVID year, but I still was looking at certain things and saying he's been trending down now for a couple of years, but slowly. His RBIs have started to go away. His home run power was waning a bit. He played a lot of games. Like, this is a guy that was getting like over 700 at bats a year. Like, this is, not easy on any player, right? So now we're into this year and he's got 11 homers, 38 RBIs. So he is going to have Carlos Baerga type numbers. And Baerga was a nice guy. But when he came in, he was nowhere near the player he was, and he didn't try and change. And Lindor's got a 686 OPS and a 224 batting average. And someone needs to sit this guy down and say, you need to reinvent yourself. You're still fast. You're still a great fielder. You no longer have power. You've got to be a doubles and triples guy. And you've actually got to pull yourself up from the bootstraps here and reinvent yourself, because otherwise you're going to be another Jason Bay for a lot more money.
And somebody needs to take the fall. And my choice would be Sandy Alderson. It starts from the top.
Yeah.
He made that call. He signed a ridiculous contract without even letting him play a season. He had like one more year to play before they made the ridiculous contract. Let's see how he plays in the National League. Let's see what he can do before we give him the big money. And we give him so much money before we even give our homebred players who have suffered with us and gone through the trenches with us. And they can't perform because they're kind of in a fog right now because they can't understand how come they weren't offered contracts before an outsider. So he just came in and totally changed the dynamics of what the game represents for the players. So the players have really no clue. Every single game they're playing on eggshells, and it's hard enough as it is to play this game.
Yeah, I mean, Conforto won the first game with a base hit. Now he just hit a 2-run homer. Mike, before you respond, there's a shortstop playing for the Indians, plays the outfield sometimes. He's got 8 homers, 22 doubles, 6 triples. He's got 44 RBIs, hitting 283. Ahmed Rosario. And when he was traded, now I thought Jimenez would still be the big part of that deal, and he still might be. He got sent down. Right. But they were all like, oh, yeah, Rosario can't play. And maybe he's not the greatest fielder, but he always could hit, and he could always hit for extra bases. And his season is killing Lindor's right now.
Yeah, I mean, the numbers that you just quoted, basically, that's where Rosario tops out. And I think that, obviously the Mets were hoping that the Lindor of old, who hit 25 to 30 home runs and with a Gold Glove level shortstop, would come back. And obviously this year it hasn't. This is the thing, and Nikco is absolutely right. I don't understand why, and this is retrospective analysis, but I think we all said it when the contract was signed. There was no need to sign him to the 10-year deal. I don't care what his agent said about, if he's not signed by the beginning of the regular season, then, he's going to go free agent. Go enjoy, because you have Baez, you have Seager, you have Correa, you have Trevor Story, all going free agent. And if they hadn't signed him and he had this year, you're telling me he was going to get anywhere close to $34 million? I don't even think he would get half of that. So this is a misstep, and I don't think you can blame Sandy Alderson completely for it. I think this is partially the owner wanted to make a big splash and show, I'm going to spend the big money, and he spends 30. Remember how coy he was on Twitter when he said, I've got something to announce. I mean, yeah, you got something to announce. A contract that's worse than Jacoby Ellsbury and Giancarlo Stanton rolled up in one.
So let's talk about another superstar in the league, a guy from South Jersey, Mike Trout, who can't stay healthy. And he hasn't played in 107 days, probably done for the season. And you kind of wonder, Nikco, with the calf strain and, all the muscle this guy carries and everything else, does he not have to look at himself and say, okay, maybe I need to trim down a bit. Maybe I need to stop lifting weights if he does, and maybe do things a little differently, because he hasn't been able to stay anywhere near where he would be. Like last year was okay, 1746, but that's not Mike Trout. And this year he was 818 and 117 at bats. That's not Mike Trout. So what's up with Mike Trout?
You're right. Mike Trout is in a position where he's the greatest player in the world. And every single year, he's actually got to try to be greater and try to be greater and try to be greater. And when you put so much demand on yourself, you're going to run into injuries. It's a long season. And, the weights, what players are learning now, that less weights and more yoga, okay, more stretching, more flexibility, more Pilates, okay? You want to have muscles, but you want to also have flexibility.
Right. Mike?
Yeah, well, I mean, you got to remember last year, the home run champ was 22 home runs. So his year was, you put it in perspective. But
okay, that's fine.
And he hit, let's see, what did he hit? He hit 281 with 390 on base. So it was a pretty good year, but not up to his standards. He's supposed to be hitting, in the over 300 with 45, 40 home runs, something like that.
Right.
He's not old, but he's let's see, now he just turned 30 this month. So, and he's played a lot of games. So maybe the wear and tear on him, he's played center. Maybe he needs to move to right field. Maybe, he needs to do what guys like Stanton and Judge did this year, what Nikco said. It's like they did more, stretching, more hot yoga, more that type of work rather than heavy weight training. And actually Stanton is playing the outfield and, having a pretty good year as opposed to what the injuries that he struggled through. So maybe that adjustment needs to be made. But honestly, if I had a chance to trade for Mike Trout, I still would. I mean, he's still, I think, a great player.
Okay. And sticking with Mike, so the Yankees are hanging in there. They're up 2 in the wild card. Boston's, fallen a bit, but Chris Sale's back. They're not out of the woods, even as well as they've done in the last, few weeks. Do you think they're going to hang on?
Yeah, I think they're going to get one of the 2 wild cards. It's right now it's a question of they're extremely streaky. I mean, they win 13 in a row. They win the first 2 games in Oakland against a team that they're in direct competition with for one of the 2 wild cards. And that was big. And then they took the foot off the gas a little bit. And in one of the games, they allowed like Tony Kemp to hit a 2-run home run, and we should know who Tony Kemp is because we both have him in a fantasy league. But Tony Kemp isn't exactly Jason Giambi, so it's like they get beat by Tony Kemp with a home run in the 9th inning, and they end up splitting the series with Oakland, so that keeps Oakland in the mix. And then, and I told you this before the show, they bring Corey Kruber back. He'd been out for 3 months. He actually pitched pretty decently until he gave up a grand slam home run in the 4th inning. And then they bring in the guy who should not have his name on the back of his jersey, but should have gas can, Andrew Heaney, who ever since they've gotten him, he's just given up home run after home run after home run.
All right. Let's see how many home runs he's actually given up, because
9.
9.
I think it's 9. The guy is an absolutely horrible pitcher, and I understand the reason why they needed somebody to plug the hole while they were waiting for Severino and waiting for Kruber to come back. And at that point, they still had Cole and Montgomery on the COVID list. But the problem is, okay, now all those guys are back. This guy should have been designated for assignment instead of being pitching in a game after they've lost 2 games in a row against his former team, who knows how crappy he is.
Actually, he hasn't given up 9 homers, Mike. He's given up 10.
There you go. Well, that didn't include the Otani home run from yesterday. There you go.
6.43 ERA. It really is unbelievable.
Yeah, he's. I mean, I'm not understating it. This guy is dog food. That's how bad he is.
Nikco, what's your thoughts?
My thoughts are the Yankees. The Yankees looking like they want to win that wild card. They're not going to win the division, but they could win that wild card.
Are they going to stay ahead of the A's? Are the Red Sox going to stay ahead of the A's? Are the Toronto Blue Jays done? Are the Blue Jays done?
The Toronto Blue Jays.
I think the Blue Jays are just celebrating the fact that they have baseball again in Toronto. The last the few months they got to witness with their own eyes and get ready for next year. That's Toronto.
Well, I mean, Seattle's having a great year, but it doesn't seem like they have the horses to catch either the Yankees or Boston either.
Right. I think the A's went down when their top pitcher went down. He got hit with the line drive in the forehead, Bassett, and that's demoralizing. When you see your ace go down, it's like seeing DeGrom go down, and the felt the absence of DeGrom all year long.
Well, Russ didn't want to hear my argument that the Blue Jays season essentially ended as soon as they moved back to Toronto, because they were a game behind the Yankees on July 31st when they left Buffalo, went to Toronto, and Vlad Guerrero was hitting .327 and he was 2 home runs behind Ohtani. Now he's hitting .312. And I think he's like 7 home runs behind Ohtani. He has no chance of winning the MVP. Barrios, the pitcher they got from the Twins, has not pitched well. Their bullpen is AAA quality in most. They've got a lot of good young players, but this was a year too early for them. They need to probably get another starter and 2 guys in the bullpen before they can even think of challenging, Tampa Bay or the Yankees. And Tampa Bay, as great as the Yankees have played, they win 13 games in a row. They didn't gain any ground on Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's up by 7 games. That team is ridiculous and how they keep winning in spite of, whoever's not on their roster.
83 wins. I mean, everybody talks about the Giants and the Dodgers, and Tampa's right there with them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's unbelievable.
I like to talk about a team that really gets no press. I've been giving them press on Full Press in my articles, and that's the Cincinnati Reds. I think they're for real, Nico. I think they are going to make the playoffs. They're going to have to do it via the wild card, most likely, because the Milwaukee's just got too much of a lead on them in the division. But I looked at the schedule. I looked at the home run hitting that the Reds do at home, and with Castellanos and Naquin, and they've got enough power there and just enough pitching that I think they can pull it off.
That's a big thing right there, Russ. That's a big call. I mean, today would be a good example of if they have a chance today, and it was postponed. We were going to get to see them, Sonny Gray, go against the Cardinals are in town there. That's going to really let them know if they have a chance. If they can beat the Cardinals, that's going to be tough competition. But when you look at their day-to-day pitcher, they just don't have it. I mean, Votto is playing, having a tremendous year.
Yeah, he all of a sudden decided he's going to hit home runs. Like, we know Joey Votto can hit, but he's like, you know what? I'm going back to my home run hitting because that's what the team needs, and he's doing it.
Yeah, did he almost break a record? It was like 8 games in a row or something?
Yeah.
So he's been basically carrying the Reds on his back. They lost to Suarez. I don't know where he went. He went to kind of never land. But if he shows up, they do have some hitters and they do have some players, and they really miss Nick Senzel when he went down too. So I really don't see how they're so competitive with the little that they do have.
Mike?
Well, I mean, it's a bandbox of a ballpark. And, I'm just looking at their stats. I mean, Jesse Winker has 24 home runs.
Oh, no, it's insane. I've written about them 3 times this year. They're guys on like an amazing pace, the best pace they've ever been on in their lives. And there's no question the ballpark is the MVP, but you still have to win the games.
Oh, sure. But I'm just saying, it's like, this is not like, this is not the 1990 Cincinnati Reds with, Jose Rio pitching. It's like, Castellanos is a good ball player, but, Suarez has got 23 home runs in spite of hitting 31 points behind below the Mendoza line. Jonathan India,
he's making plays, man. This guy makes plays in the field. He does.
Yeah, it's bizarre how this is sort of like a no-name team.
It is.
Even though Votto is Votto could be a Hall of Famer based on what he's done over the last decade.
With the on-base percentage and some of the other things, yeah.
Right. And, but really it's a no-name offense. And, I think Nikco might be right. I don't know whether they have enough pitching to get through. I mean, we know Sonny Gray couldn't pitch in New York, but, there have been other people who have failed to do that, and he's been able to sort of reclimate his career there. But, the big ones, the big starters with him are Wade Miley and Tyler Mahle or Mahl. I think it's Mahle. And so
it's Miley.
It's Miley. Okay. So I always butcher that name, but they don't really have a great bullpen, and they don't really have a deep enough rotation that if they do get to the postseason, they might be any kind of threat. But there'll be a threat in that ballpark because it's a bandbox and they can hit home runs.
Yeah, and Nikco mentioned, hey, Goldschmidt got hot, Wainwright's pitching great. Mike was on Wainwright early in the year, having a good comeback year. So St. Louis is in the mix. San Diego, if they could get out of their own way, would be the logical choice, Nikco, but they have no pitching.
San Diego has no pitching. I mean, Snell today, we're going to see what he can do. But after that, I mean, Darvish is not the same you. So it looks like, all the big shebang that the Padres made, they lost out on Max Scherzer. That's the guy they should have got.
Yeah, Max Scherzer could have been an unbelievable pickup for them because that may have been enough to get him in the playoffs. Now, let's talk about the MVP race because it's an interesting thing here in Philly. I get what Bryce Harper means to the team, and he's doing really well, but his numbers are nowhere near Tatis Jr.'s. Nowhere near. He's 20 RBIs behind. He's like 15 homers behind, at least 10 homers. He's got a higher average, but Tatis has him in every category, and he was out for a while. Is there any chance, if the Phillies were to make the playoffs, that Bryce Harper wins the MVP over Tatis?
No, if you're asking.
No, go ahead, Nikco. Go.
That would be a no. That would be an absolute no. I mean, Harper is having a good year. I couldn't even say he's earning his money, but I'm saying he's having a good year. But when you want to look at some MVP, when you look at hitters, look at the Braves. I mean, someone like a nobody like Austin Riley. Nobody knows who he is.
No, Mike and I do. Mike and I drafted him last year. We know who Austin Riley is. But maybe
absolutely. He gets to play every day with another MVP candidate, Freddie Freeman. So you can flip a coin now. But the Braves got, two MVP caliber players. And then when you look at the Dodgers, basically, they lost their kind of big time MVP players, Bellinger, Mookie Betts, even Corey Seager, I thought had a run for an MVP. But, you look at Chris Turner and what he has done. He's been steady. He's been consistent. I know he's the MVP of the Dodgers. I wouldn't say he's the MVP of the league. But I would say that's a toss-up for National League MVP right now.
Mike?
Well, what I look at is the fact that Tatis has got 36 home runs, and he missed, I think he missed like 30 games with his shoulder injury. So the pace that he's on, I mean, Harper's having a really good year. I mean, you could use it. It could cut both ways. You could say, well, he can't be the MVP if he misses 35 games, but if he puts up the numbers that are equivalent or better than Harper in less time, then that is a case for the MVP. So, and if I'm voting right now, I'd vote for Tatis.
Yeah, I think Tatis gets it. And listen, Harper plays great in the field. He runs the bases great. Like, I get where, people are talking about it, and it's probably nice that the stadium, chants his name once in a while. And you mean Justin Turner, right, Nikco, not Chris Turner?
Yeah, Justin, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I just call him Bigger.
Yeah, well, the Mets used to call him too until they didn't qualify him one year. But anyhow, that's a whole other situation. So last thing here, we're looking at potential off-season strike. We don't hear any talk about it. work stoppage. Nikco, where do you think this is at? Because I would think at some point Manfred would mention something and we hear nothing. Like it's almost like they don't even want to think about it, and then it's just seemingly going to probably happen overnight.
I think it's a whisper because I think a new owner came into the game and let the bag out of the hat and let them know that there's kind of two sets of values on the draft picks on the books, and that was kind of alarming. And we really haven't heard anybody talk about that.
Mm-hmm. Mike?
It's the story nobody wants to talk about. Really. I mean, it's a situation where everybody knows what's looming on the horizon. Everybody knows that these two sides are going to be in a pitched battle that, more than likely you're going to see an abbreviated season. I mean, who knows if it'll be 90 games or 100 games or whatever. I mean, that each side is dug in on what they want to accomplish. And I think it's going to be painful. I mean, enjoy the playoffs because you may not see baseball until June or July. And I don't think that's where the sport needs to go. But I don't think there's any quit on either side. I think it's going to be a war. I think it's going to be a war in the media, and it's not going to be pretty.
Yeah, I mean, there was an article written in February. It was the AP, and it basically said they expect a work stoppage because the players refused to negotiate with the owners over a 1-month delay for this spring training and regular season. So just imagine it was Ronald Bloom, and it was back in February. So just imagine next one. Now, the agreement expires December 1st, and let's see. Yeah, and of course, Nikco, they talk about the 94 World Series cancellation, which, again, we wrote about in our book Strike 3. So I don't know if we're going to get that. I think Mike's right. I think we'll just get a shortened season.
Absolutely. We better not get anything near a player strike ever again in the history. That was the purpose of writing the book Strike 3. It's over. No more strikes for the players. It's time to negotiate. There's so much out there in value to negotiate. Let's just sharpen our skills and bring everything we got to the table. And in the meantime, just keep playing ball, and hopefully we can, like I said, keep growing the fan excitement. And about the World Series, I got a chance to check out the Dodgers the last couple of games, and I was really looking for some hunger, some fight, and some great at bats and just some great hustle, some great plays. And I seen it spontaneously from a few players here and there. But what I can call right now is I will call early on that there will not be a repeat of back-to-back World Series. I do not see it in the Dodgers. I don't see it in their soul. I see a lot of Dodgers just walking around comfortable.
Okay. I mean, you were taking videos of some overweight, over-the-hill part-time player. That's what I saw.
Well, yeah, but hey, they're late in the season, and like I said, this is
I want
what
to tell people that's Albert Pujols who I'm talking about.
Right, Hall of Famer. Yeah, they're throwing him in the late innings, just throw some at bats and everything. But we're not expecting Albert Pujols to win the World Series for the Dodgers. Okay,
no.
But I just was the other players, and I just don't see a combined hunger that I saw last year. I just don't. I see a team that's won the World Series, that's comfortable, and I think somebody's going to knock them off.
See, Russ, I was going to come to the defense of Mary Hart when you were talking about. Never mind.
Yeah, I get it. All right, Nikco, you have anything to plug? How's the boxing training going?
The boxing's going awesome. All right. As long as I don't run into Justin Fight again on Venice Beach, I went out there and I was looking for the biggest guy I could possibly fight and train and spar with, because I didn't want to just say, hey, I want to beat up on the little guys or something like that. So I see this guy running, about 6'6", kind of guy, just kind of hanging out. And he looked like he was like a defensive tackle for the Rams or something. And he was just working out. And I said, well, wait, no, he's working. Let him keep on going. And I found the guy. This guy's walking over here. Let me ask this guy. And he was big. He was about 6'5". And he's like, hey, I'll fight. I want to fight. I said, hey, let's do it. And he told me afterwards, we sparred for just a few seconds. He said, man, that was a blast. I had a lot of fun. And you can imagine.
And it was Aaron. It was Aaron Donald. That's who he fought.
And I was like, no, keep on running. I'm not quite ready yet for that level. Although if the price is right, Russ, you never know.
Oh, I'm not boxing you, if that's what you mean.
No, Aaron Donald. I take on Aaron Donald if the price is right.
You can't even take on Jake Paul yet. You got to work your way up.
I got to work my way up.
The only box that I'm interested in right now is a box of Raisin Bran. So
there you go. And we're going to leave it on that. Thanks everybody for listening to the game. We'll catch everybody next time.
My man.